Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick joins us now to discuss this absolutely petty, childish walkout by Democrats in the Republic of Texas just the other day, and the new constitutional carry laws that the governor is going to be signing. Excited about this. It's good to have you, Lieutenant Governor Patrick. You promised, and it was delivered, and I feel it's like Christmas, so I'm very glad that we got this done.
I'm glad too, and so are gun owners in Texas. As a matter of fact, Dana, the NRA put out a bulletin yesterday that this session in Texas was unprecedented and groundbreaking. We passed 11 bills dealing with the Second Amendment, all of the NRA priorities led by constitutional carry first and foremost. We also passed House Bill 1500 saying that any businesses dealing with guns are essential businesses during disasters and cannot be closed down. We passed Senate Bill 19 that basically discourages any banks or financial services from discriminating against gun businesses in Texas. If you won't loan us money, we won't put our money with you. Senate Bill 20 answers a question a lot of travelers have. Can you take your gun in a hotel or not in Texas? It now will allow that. And one of the other key bills of the 11 was House Bill 918 that lowers the age from 21 to 18 for license to carry, because even though we passed constitutional carry, we still have license to carry. And by the way, if you want to talk about con carry, it's the model for the country, I think.
It absolutely is, and I'm very happy that this was done. I know a lot of people were waiting for it for a long time. Gun owners, I know Gun Owners of America, Second Amendment Foundation, all working really hard. And of course, obviously, you know, yourself and other Republicans. I have to ask you though, I got to get your response to this quote from Julian Castro, because I'm amazed at the, well, I'm not amazed. I don't know why. I really enjoy the spin. So this is what he had actually tweeted, because from this walkout. He tweeted, this is Julian Castro. He says, quote, Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick oversaw one of the sloppiest, most radical legislative sessions in modern Texas history. Their extreme agenda failed, so now they want to defund the legislature. They should defund their own salaries instead. That's his quote. I've got to get your response to that.
Well, first of all, the Texas Senate had an incredible session. I had 29 priorities. We passed 28 of those out of the Senate, and 20 became law. It's probably the best session we had, and negotiating particularly constitutional carry, where we were able to get the NRA, Gun Owners of America, and the sheriffs of Texas all on board with the bill. Again, I think the model for the country. In terms of the walkout, here's what happened, Dana, and that is that on the House side, our Speaker, who's elected by Republicans but needs some Democrats to hold office, just delayed several key bills that Democrats didn't want to hear until the last day, 4 hours before the deadline, midnight Sunday, particularly Senate Bill 7, which was the strongest election security bill passed in the country. And it has nothing to do with suppression, just we want to be sure we secure the voting booth and those who mail in ballots, that they say they are who they are, and we have all legitimate people voting as we want them to vote. And so what happened was the Speaker met with the Democrats and said, I'm not going to lock the doors and keep you in, because under law, he runs the House, I run the Senate. We can lock the doors and keep people from breaking quorum. He also said, besides not locking the doors, he would not send state police to bring them back. Again, we have the power of the law to bring them back. So with 4 hours to go, roughly, before the deadline, Senate Bill 7 came up, and the Democrats left. So first of all, I think the Speaker should have been tougher, quite frankly. I don't like to have inter-party battles with a Republican Speaker, but the opportunity was set. The Democrats took advantage of it. But that's not what democracy is, Dana. When you lose a vote, you have to man up or woman up and say, I lost the vote. We're the Republican majority in the state. Consequences come from the outcome of elections. And so Democrats went home crying, complaining that they were going to lose this strong vote on the strongest election security and integrity bill in the country, and so they just left. That's not democracy.
No, that's not democracy, and that also doesn't make, Castro's remark doesn't make any sense either, because where I come from, if you leave your job without doing your job, you don't get paid. So maybe it's Democrat salaries that should be examined.
So here's what the governor did smartly yesterday, or 2 days when we talked. He's vetoing Article 10 of the budget. That funds the legislature. Now, most people in the country and even in Texas don't realize our representatives and our senators and even your lieutenant governor, we make $600 a month. We kind of have a real citizens government here in Texas. We're not highly paid elected officials like other states or Congress. And so $600 a month doesn't impact us. But what the governor did, he said, and I totally support this, that he's wiping out all salaries at the end of our fiscal year, which is August 31st, for all of the staffers. And that's about 1,000 people in the Capitol that work in the House and the Senate to perform the duties needed to bring bills to the floor and operate government. So on August 31st, all of those salaries from all of those staffers will be gone. And that means that if the Democrats don't come back for a special session, has been rumored that they won't even come back for a special session, that means they're going to lose their entire staffs. And so when they come back to vote on that, we'll pass these other bills that they blocked. There were a few other key bills that they blocked, and the Speaker blocked by not bringing them to the floor. We're going to bring them all back. And here's one of the rumors that was out there. I got a call, Dana, on Sunday night when they were walking out, asking, it was a kind of, let's say, a good source, that the Democrats wanted to know, could they be arrested by state police and brought back from one of our Indian reservations? And the answer is, yes, they can. They obviously were planning to go to an Indian reservation, or thinking about it, in Texas, where they couldn't be brought back. That's how far the left will go in trying to disrupt democracy. This is the fourth time, by the way, Dana, in the history of Texas, Democrats have walked out. One time they went to Mexico for a month, Oklahoma in the past, but this is the most recent time in the last couple of decades, and it's disgusting. But they should not have had that opportunity. Had I been the Speaker of the House, I would have said, I'm locking the doors, and if any of you get out, I'm sending the state police to bring you back, because we're going to have a vote on this bill now.
Do you think that that's going to be done if a special session is called? Do they have the opportunity to walk out again if that kind of action isn't taken? And do you think that Dade Phelan, who is he's the Speaker of the House there, Texas State Legislature,
yes,
would he do that? Is he going to lock the doors?
I hope he's learned a lesson. You can't be nice to the left, the radical left. And I hope he's learned a lesson. And this time, lock the doors and arrest them if they break quorum. You just can't have this in democracy. And look, they're going to have to come back in the fall anyway, because when we get the census data, we have to redraw the maps. Although there's a lot of belief, Dana, that what the Biden administration is doing by delaying the census, that he really wants to push all these votes on maps eventually to the courts, and maybe even try to run the next election in 22 under the current maps, because he's worried that he'll lose Congress. I don't think constitutionally that can happen, because you can't run under illegal maps. But the Biden administration is delaying the release of the census, and that's what we need to draw the maps. So the Democrats have to come back at some point, but the key is August 31st, the end of our fiscal year. So they really need to come back before August, or every employee is going to be furloughed that they have. And then if those employees lose their paychecks, it's going to be on the Democrats.
That's when social media gets interesting, because that's when secrets come out. Usually, and you're like he's like, yes, they are. He's fully expecting it. No, that's well, hopefully they won't let their staff, not just their staffers, but also Texas voters down either. I wanted to ask you another question. Talking to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick here, there were one of the accusations, and I think this was something that was, I'm trying to cite it correctly, Texas Tribune. They were saying that multiple groups are questioning the constitutionality of the Texas Senate from stripping its own amendments from the civics bill so late in session to pass a House version. What is your response to that? Because I didn't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, hogwash. So what happened is the House stripped an amendment out the Democrats called a point of order on the ban of critical race theory. And so the House sent it back to us. And there's a law, a rule rather, in the parliamentary procedure, and there's precedent set in 1993 by a Democrat actually, that you can recede from the amendments from the bill. In other words, if the House had a disagreement on an amendment on a bill, they send it back to us, we can just say, okay, we'll withdraw from that. So we'll step back from that, so that's not an issue, and then we'll send the bill back to you. That's exactly what we did. And the Democrats called a point of order in the Senate. By the way, there's a big difference between 150 members in the House and my 31 senators. We've had one point of order all year. They had 50 or 60 over there. They're always calling points of order, the Democrats. So we receded. They came up to the front of the podium, and they said, well, you know, how are you doing this? And we said, well, go ask that Democrat in the back room, because one of our senators was actually Democrats there in 1993 who used the same maneuver. So the precedent was there, the rules are there. It's very clear in parliamentary procedure. You can recede from a bill to basically shed the issues or the amendments that the other chamber has with it. So we did everything by the book. We know the rules, and we do what we need to do. Look, we work well with people across the aisle, and most things are nonpartisan. But the issues that separate the Democrats and the Republicans in America and Texas, it's life issues, Second Amendment issues, critical, banning critical race theory, it's taxing issues, it's size of government, defunding police. Those issues, those 10, 15, 20 issues, every session separate us. We're the majority party. The Republicans elected Republicans in Texas to lead on a conservative basis, not to give in to the Democrats on those issues. Unfortunately, that's what the House did on a few issues, the Senate didn't, and we'll come back in special session and we'll pass these bills that the Democrats walked out on, including bail reform. Think of that, Dana. They walked out killing bail reform. They don't want bail reform. They want all the criminals out of jail. We want to keep the hardened criminals in jail. And right now, in some of our big cities in Texas with liberal DAs and liberal judges, they're letting even serious felons walk out and committing more crime.
A denial of justice. That's exactly what they're advocating against justice completely.
Yes.
So it's a bunch of groups that don't understand parliamentary procedure.
No.
Last question for you.
Yes,
just real quick on this special session. What else? I know you mentioned SB 7, and there were a couple of other items I know that you wanted to have accomplished. Is there anything else that we can expect to come up in special session that maybe is not being publicly discussed, that or no one's paying close enough attention to, that you would like to see, that you would like to work on?
Yeah. So immediately after they killed some of these bills with a week to go, I asked the governor to call a special session. And now with the Senate Bill 7, the voting bill being killed, he definitely is, and bail reform, he's definitely calling us back. But I had already asked for him to put on Senate Bill 29. We passed this out in April. It could have been brought up, and it wasn't. And that is to stop boys playing girls sports. It's not anti-transgender. It's pro-women, pro-girls. So their scholarships and their opportunity to play sports is protected. So that's one bill I want to see up. The other bill is Senate Bill 10, stopping taxpayer-funded lobbying by cities and counties. That has 95% support with Republicans, over 80% support with Democrats. That bill died on the calendar because the Democrats blocked it, or it wasn't set to not make them unhappy. And also, we had Senate Bill 12, which was our social media bill to stop social media from censoring speech from conservatives. So those were 4 bills that never got to the floor for a hearing or a vote. Senate Bill 7 got to the floor, but they never could vote it because the Democrats walked out. So the thing that bothered me, the thing that bothered me most, Dana, was a comment from the speaker. And again, I'm not trying to have an inter-party squabble here. He was a new speaker, his first session, and maybe he was just too nice to the Democrats at the end. But he said that he understood why Democrats would walk out if, when they went home, the votes that they take would not be popular with their constituents. Or I'm paraphrasing that. So it's not my business to be concerned about Democrats going back to their district and facing unhappy voters because Republicans won on our issues. That's why we have elections. So I hope in the special session the speaker realizes the Democrats will pull the rug out from under him like that.
And his Republican voters may too.
And Republican voters may. Again, he went to them and said, basically, please don't leave. I'm not going to lock you in. I'm not going to arrest you if you leave. Well, what do you think they were going to do? I mean, they were against Senate Bill 7. They're going to leave.
Yeah.
Can't let them go.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, hopefully
we
it will be a lot different.
We had a great conservative session till that last weekend. We'll get these passed this summer. And because the governor, and I'll support this, keep calling this back till we do. And as the NRA said, the unprecedented groundbreaking session. We passed some bills even I wasn't sure they would be there at the finish line. In fact, it's some of our best work done on a couple of these bills. And Texas leads the way once again in protecting the Second Amendment.
There you go. There you go. Lieutenant Governor Dan
Thank
Patrick,
you, Dana.
always a pleasure to talk with you. Good
Always
to
a
see
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.